see. Let me tell Waziri, before you dash, how are you?
Now, honorable senators, before I let the clerk call the next order, I have a message from the National Assembly that I need to pass to the Senate. Senator Kavindu, take your seat, please. Now, honorable senators, I wish to report that I have, pursuant to Article 152 of the Constitution, as read with Article 145(2) of the Constitution and Standing Order 46(3) of the Senate Standing Orders, received a message from the Speaker of the National Assembly regarding the approval of a special motion for the removal from office by impeachment of His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, EGH, Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. Honorable Senators, you may proceed to take your seats. Honorable Senators, I did write Kenya Gazette number 13, 170, volume CXX, V1, number 157, dated the 9th of October 2024, upon today, Wednesday, the 9th of October 2024, at 9:30 a.m., as the sitting convened for the purpose of hearing the charges in the matter of the proposed removal from office by impeachment of His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, EGH, Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. Honorable Senators, the message dated Tuesday, the 8th of October 2024, was received in my office on Wednesday, the 9th of October 2024, and indicated that the National Assembly had resolved, with the support of 282 members, being at least 2/3 of all members of the National Assembly, that pursuant to the provisions of Articles 145(2), as read with Article 151(b) and 2 of the Constitution, His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, EGH, Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, be removed from office by impeachment on the following grounds. Ground number 1, gross violation of Articles 10, 2A, B, and C, 27(4), 73(1)A, and 2B, 75(1)C, and 129(2) of the Constitution, and Articles 147(1) as read together with Article 131(2)C and D of the Constitution. 2, gross violation of Articles 147(1) and 152(1) of the Constitution by undermining the President and the Cabinet and the effective discharge of the national government's executive mandate. Number 3, gross violation of Articles 6(2), 10(2)A, 174, 186(1), 189(1), and the 4th schedule to the Constitution by undermining devolution. 4, gross violation of Article 161 of the Constitution on the institutional and decisional independence of judges. Number 5, gross violation of Articles 3(1) and 148(5)A of the Constitution on the fidelity to the oath of office and allegiance. Number 6, serious reasons to believe that His Excellency the Deputy President has committed crimes under Section 13(1)A and 62 of the National Cohesion and Integration Act. Number 7, serious reasons to believe that His Excellency the Deputy President has committed gross economic crimes under Section 45(1), 46, 47(a)(3), and 48(1) of the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, and Sections 2, 3, 4, and 7 of the Proceeds of Crime and Anti-Money Laundering Act. Number 8, serious reasons to believe that His Excellency the Deputy President has committed crimes by continuously misleading members of the public through false, malicious, divisive, and insightful remarks that are contrary to the provisions of Section 132 of the Penal Code and Section 29 of the Leadership and Integrity Act. Number 9, gross misconduct that is incompatible with the high calling and dignified status of the office of the Deputy President and a member of the Cabinet and the National Security Council. His Excellency, the Deputy President, has publicly attacked and undermined the work of the National Security Intelligence Service and its officers. Number 10, gross misconduct by openly or publicly insubordinating the President, who is the head of state and government. And lastly, gross misconduct by persistently bullying state and public officers. Honorable Senators, you may walk in and take a seat. Senator Wakoli, take your seat. Honorable Senators, annexed to the message conveying the said resolution of the National Assembly are the following documents. 1, copy of the notice of special motion and affidavit of the Honorable Ekomas Mwenge Mutuse, OGW MP, dated the 26th of September 2024 and received on the 27th of September 2024, running from page 40 to 42. 2, electronic evidence relating to the special motion contained in a flash disk. Order papers for the 1st of October 2024. Communication from the Chair, number 046 of 2024, issued on Tuesday, the 1st of October 2024. Communication from the Chair, number 047 of 2024, issued on Tuesday, the 1st of October 2024. Certified Hansard and votes and proceedings of 1st of October 2024. Communication from the Chair, number 048 of 2024, issued on the 2nd of October 2024. Letters of appointment of advocates, Swanya and Company Advocates for His Excellency the Deputy President, Dastan Omari Advocates for Morani Manufacturers Limited. Letter to His Excellency the Deputy President forwarding the notice of motion. Affidavit of service on His Excellency the Deputy President. Order paper for 2nd of October 2024. Certified Hansard and votes and proceedings for the 2nd of October 2024. Public participation advertisement of the 2nd of October 2024 for Daily Nation newspaper, Standard newspaper, and the Star newspaper. Public participation advertisement of the 3rd of October 2024 for the Daily Nation newspaper, Standard newspaper, Star newspaper, and Taifa Leo. Public views template, English and Swahili. Memo to constituency county office managers dated the 4th of October 2024. Public participation advertisement for the 4th of October 2024 in the Daily Nation newspaper, Standard newspaper, and the Star newspaper. Order issued by the High Court sitting at Kerugoya on Friday, the 4th of October 2024. A press statement by the Clerk of the National Assembly on the extension of public participation issued on the 4th of October 2024. Public participation advertisement of 5th of October 2024 placed on the Standard newspaper and the Nation newspaper. Public participation report tabled on the 8th of October 2024. Response to the notice of special motion from His Excellency the Deputy President received on the 8th of October 2024 at 4 p.m. Electronic evidence by His Excellency the Deputy President relating to the special motion contained in a flash disk. Order paper for the 8th of October 2024. Communication from the Chair, number 049 of 2024, issued on the 8th of October 2024, and a certified Hansard and votes on proceedings for 8th of October 2024. Honorable Senators, kindly walk and take your seats. Honorable Senators, this impeachment motion is unique and unprecedented, as it is the first ever to propose the removal from office by impeachment of a Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. This moment calls for deep reflection on the critical responsibility of the Senate in investigating such proposal for removal of state officers from office. Senator Eddy, be attentive. The impeachment process is a fundamental tool of legislative oversight and a crucial aspect of the constitutional mechanism for checks and balances. The process is invoked by legislatures and in particular, in our case, Parliament and county assemblies as a safeguard for good governance and integrity in public service. Now, honorable senators, as you may well be aware, the Senate has been entrusted by the Constitution with a singular role to sit as a quasi-judicial body to investigate any proposed removal from office by impeachment of the President, Deputy President, county governors, and deputy county governors, and to make a determination on the alleged infractions of the Constitution and other laws. As this matter comes before you, I cannot underscore enough the immense public interest that this matter has elicited, and for good reason. This is yet another opportunity for the Senate to demonstrate its fidelity to the Constitution and to live up to its reputation. It is therefore behoves the Senate as the trial chamber to maintain integrity and impartiality in this administration of justice and to make a determination on this matter purely based on its merits. Honorable senators, in terms of the way forward, the manner of disposing of this impeachment motion will not be significantly different from how the Senate has previously investigated and determined the proposed removal from office by impeachment of county governors and deputy county governors. Standing Order 781 of the Senate, standing orders, as read together with Articles 152 and 145(3)(b) of the Constitution, provide the Senate with two options on how to proceed with this matter. Senate may, 1, by resolution, appoint a special committee comprising 11 of its members to investigate the matter, or 2, investigate the matter in plenary. In this regard, the Senate Majority Leader will, at an appointed time during this sitting, give a notice of motion and move a motion for the establishment of a special committee. Should the motion be carried, the special committee will investigate the matter and report to the Senate on whether it finds the particulars of the allegations against the Deputy President to have been substantiated. In the event that the motion for the establishment of a special committee does not pass, the Senate will proceed to investigate the matter in plenary. Consequently, I will appoint a date for the commencement of the hearing of the evidence for purposes of the investigation. Now, honorable senators, I wish to emphasize that the debate on the motion for establishment of a special committee shall be confined to the matter of the motion. That is, whether or not to establish the special committee. It shall be improper and out of order to debate the substance of the impeachment, its merits, propriety, prudence, or constitutionality or legality of the process that have preceded the submission of the matter to the Senate. In the meantime, and during the pendence of this impeachment process in the Senate, I wish to caution honorable senators to desist from publicly commenting on the merits or demerits of the impeachment motion. Doing so will amount to anticipation of debate, which is an infringement of Standing Order 99 of the Senate Standing Orders. Honorable senators, to make it clear, it shall constitute gross disorderly conduct within the meaning of Standing Order 122 for a senator to make comments, whether written or spoken, in relation to the conduct of the Deputy President or the impeachment process, which is outside the confines of the impeachment proceedings, as such comments may prejudice the just outcome of this matter. As I conclude, I urge all honorable senators to stay true to the oath of office and exercise the highest level of responsibility on this particular matter. I thank you. Now, honorable senators, a supplementary order paper has been circulated. I believe it's been posted to your gadgets. you may now abandon the order paper that we have been using earlier on and switch to the new order paper. Clerk, you may now proceed to call the next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
The Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to give notice of the following motion, which is the establishment of a special committee to investigate the proposed removal from office by way of impeachment of His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, EGH, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. That whereas pursuant to Article 151B and 2 and Article 145 of the Constitution and the National Assembly Standing Orders number 64 and 65, on the 8th of October 2024, the National Assembly approved a special motion for the removal from office by impeachment of H.E. Rigathi Gachagua, EGH, Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. And further, whereas by letter reference NADLP TBO MTS 2024-025, dated 8th of October 2024 and received in the office of the Speaker of the Senate on the 9th of October 2024. The Speaker of the National Assembly informed the Speaker of the Senate of the approval of the special motion by the National Assembly and further forwarded to the Speaker of the Senate documents in evidence of the proceedings of the National Assembly. And whereas pursuant to Article 145(3)(b) of the Constitution, as read together with Article 152 of the Constitution and Standing Orders 78(1) and 79 of the Senate Standing Orders, the Senate may by resolution appoint a special committee comprising 11 of its members to investigate the matter. Now, therefore, pursuant to Article 145(3)(b), the Constitution as read together with Article 152 of the Constitution and the Standing Orders of the Senate Standing Orders, the Senate resolves to constitute a special committee to investigate the proposed removal from office by impeachment of H.E. Rigathi Gachagua, EGH, Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Next order.
Order number 8, motion, establishment of a special committee to investigate the proposed removal from office by impeachment of His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, EGH, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there's a motion on the, I beg to move the following motion, the establishment of a special committee to investigate the proposed removal from office by impeachment of H.E. Rigathi Gachagua, EGH, Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. That whereas pursuant to Article 151B and 2, Article 145 of the Constitution and the National Assembly Standing Orders 64 and 65, on 8th of October 2024, the National Assembly approved a special motion for the removal from office by impeachment of His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, EGH, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. And further, whereas by letter reference NADLP/TBO/MTS 2024-025, dated 8th of October 2024, received in the office of the Speaker of the Senate on the 9th of October 2024, the Speaker of the National Assembly informed the Speaker of the Senate of the approval of the special motion by the National Assembly and further forwarded to the Speaker of the Senate documents in evidence of the proceedings of the National Assembly. And whereas pursuant to Article 145(3)(b) of the Constitution, as read together with Article 152 of the Constitution and Standing Order 78(1) and 79 of the Senate Standing Orders, the Senate may, by resolution, appoint a special committee comprising of 11 of its members to investigate the matter. Now, therefore, pursuant to Article 145(3)(b) of the Constitution as read together with Article 152 of the Constitution and Standing Order 78(1) of the Senate Standing Orders, the Senate resolves to constitute a special committee to investigate the proposed removal from office by impeachment of His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, EGH, Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, this is uncharted territory. For the first time, the Senate of the Republic of Kenya is being invited to conduct an impeachment hearing of a Deputy President. Much as this is constitutional, Mr. Speaker, it's the first time that this is happening. And there is a proposal before us as a House, as per our standing orders, to either consider this matter. We have two options as per our standing orders, to either consider this matter by a special committee or the plenary. The motion before us, Mr. Speaker, is a proposal to the House that we select 11 of our members from both sides of the House to consider this impeachment and advise us, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't know what is the excitement in the House. I have said already that this has never happened before, but that's the proposal, that should we, and I want to urge members to agree with me, that we elect 11 of our wisest and most trusted senators, Mr. Speaker, who we think have the sufficient wisdom to read on our behalf, make a decision, and as you know, as per our standing orders, Mr. Speaker, should they elect that the matters have not been substantiated, the matter dies, and there is no recourse for the House. However, should they confirm any of the 11 charges, even one, Mr. Speaker, then they will invite the rest of us to join them in making a decision. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, with those very many remarks, this is not a matter that I want to speak long to, because there's more serious matters that lay ahead with regards to this particular motion, Mr. Speaker. With those very many remarks, I want to invite the Senator for Nairobi, Senator Edwin Watenya Sifuna, to second this motion.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. As you have indicated in your communication, indeed this is a matter that is extremely unique, that has elicited immense public attention, and therefore, Honorable Speaker, given the mood of the House and especially on the minority side, I respectfully decline to second that motion.
Now, Senator Oburu. Order, honorable senators. You will note that the Senate Majority Leader has moved a motion pursuant to Articles 145(3)(b) of the Constitution and Standing Order 78(1) for the establishment of a special committee to investigate the proposed removal from office by impeachment of His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, EGH, Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. The motion has, however, failed to get a seconder. Now, Standing Order 70 of the Senate Standing Orders states as follows. The question on any motion shall not be proposed unless it shall have been seconded, and any motion that is not seconded shall be deemed to have been withdrawn and shall not be moved again in the same session unless with the permission of the Speaker. Honorable Senators, as I communicated earlier today during the sitting, by way of a message on the resolution of the National Assembly, Article 145(3)(b) of the Constitution, as read together with Article 78(1), provides that the Senate, by resolution, may appoint a special committee comprising 11 of its members to investigate the matter. The motion having been deemed to be withdrawn, pursuant to Standing Order 71, the proposal for a special committee is defeated. The Senate will therefore proceed with the investigation of the proposed removal from office by impeachment of His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua EGH, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, in plenary. Honorable Senators, in line with the schedule of activities for an impeachment hearing in plenary, I hereby give the following directions. A, the clerk to issue invitations to appear to the Deputy President today, Wednesday, the 9th of October, 2024. B, the clerk to issue invitations to appear to the National Assembly today, Wednesday, the 9th of October, 2024. The parties to file their responses with the office of the clerk of the Senate by Monday, the 14th of October, 2024, by 5 p.m. D, the clerk to circulate documents received from the parties, including the plenary hearing program, to all honorable senators upon receipt on Monday, 14th of October, 2024. And the Senate shall then investigate the matter in plenary on Wednesday, the 16th, and Thursday, the 17th of October, 2024. The Senate is accordingly guided. Thank you. Any clarification, Senator Fernandi?
Mr. Speaker, looking at the directions that we are given, I want to agree with the Senate Majority Leader that this matter is very unique. It is uncharted territory. We are so used to impeachment of governors as we have done before. Mr. Speaker, when you look at our understanding Order 78 on Senate standing orders, and also, Mr. Speaker, I needed your guidance and clarity on the process, because looking at Standing Order 78 on the removal, procedure for removal from state office, which includes the removal of the President, Deputy President or state office. Mr. Speaker, I want to invite Mr. Speaker to request, when you read under, sorry Mr. Speaker, I'm trying to get second schedule of our standing orders, Part 1, Rules of Procedure when considering removal in plenary, either the President or the Deputy President. When you look at rule number 12, subject to these rules, the hearing of the evidence, once it commence, shall proceed and continue on until the Senate concludes the hearing of the matter. So, Speaker, this extrapolates itself from Article 145, 150 in the removal of either the President or the Deputy President, considering this a matter of national interest, and it will involve a lot of process, evidence producing, and many other procedures. So, Speaker, considering the immense, would it be in order to request that, as per your direction, you increase even an extra day? You know, Mr. Speaker, they say justice should not be seen, should not only be seen, but to be seen to be done. Oh, okay, Mr. Speaker.
Order, Honorable Senator.
Mr.
Order.
Speaker, I'm happy.
Let the Senator Fernandi say it the way he understands it.
Yes.
Proceed.
And Mr. Speaker, I am directly translating from my Kalenjin mind, so members will have to bear with. Mr. Speaker, justice should not only be done, but should be seen to be done, Mr. Speaker. You know, we went to group of schools, some of us. Mr. Speaker, the point I wanted to make is that since the plenary process will allow Kenyans to follow, would it be in order whether we convict or acquit, because the law house, which was pre-trial chamber, and this is the real trial chamber, Mr. Speaker, where we shall be looking and setting precedent for future impeachment. I'm not predicting that there will be impeachment of president or deputy presidents in future, but Mr. Speaker, the point I wanted to make, and I don't know why Senator Sifuna is irritated. You'll have your time. Why are you worried? Mr. Speaker, that is what I want to conclude by saying, Mr. Speaker, just add an extra day so that the accusers, which is the National Assembly, can have elaborate time to present their case, and also the deputy president can have the time to present their case. So that, Mr. Speaker, when they move to another fora, they will have opportunity of of having the opportunity of being given a chance and the principles of natural justice. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for that indulgence, and I will properly be guided. Thank you.
Senator Fernandi, as we sit here, we don't know the number of witnesses that will be called. We don't know the volumes of documentation that will be filed. And therefore, let us go by the 2 days that I've communicated. One thing that the Senate will do, it is going to give adequate time to both parties. That's the much we are going to do as a Senate. No party will leave the Senate complaining about inadequacy of time to plead their case. Yes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And we conform to the directions that you've given and the communication that you have also given. And I actually agree to the wisdom of the Senator from Nairobi, that this is a matter of serious public interest. And the matter that is before us is so weighty, it cannot be left to the hands of 11 people. We need to hear it in plenary. And I also want to plead, based on two arguments, Honorable Speaker, looking at the communication that you've read, the number of grounds that have been set that are founded in this motion, Honorable Speaker, of impeachment. There are 11 grounds, Honorable Speaker, and in the experience that we have had as a House, I think this will be the highest number of grounds that we have ever looked at in as far as processing a motion of impeachment is concerned. That is my first concern. Number two, when we last dealt with the last impeachment of Governor from Meru, the reason why we were rushing against time and we didn't allow members to debate and give their input. And I would not want us to get ourselves in that kind of a situation, that members want to give their contribution, they want to convince the others, because the reason why we have to debate on this motion is that I can convince the other members that I think the Deputy President should be removed or should not be removed. And we didn't get that opportunity during the last sitting. Why? Because the dates that had been gazetted for that particular removal were lapsing that particular day, and we had to vote. We had to start voting before 12. So if we get ourselves in the situation that you said that we are processing this motion on Wednesday and Thursday, and it is Thursday, we are almost done with the proceedings at Thursday, 11:30. Then we don't have time to debate. It is upon this reason why then, even if we leave the 2 days that you have communicated, then we need to leave it open that if we find ourselves that we are just done with witnesses, both the accusers and the ones that are being accused, the defense team, Honorable Speaker, if you are not able to debate, then we can come the next day, debate and take a vote. We should not then hurry this process as we hurried the last process, and it's not that we hurried it because we wanted. Many members wanted to contribute. It is the reason why the voting was very acrimonious. That's what. Thank you very much, Daktari, for that. Nyandaro is far, and we have small challenges. So, it was very acrimonious here. You saw many members here, and it was not very neat. I would not want to find us in such a situation. I wish you would allow that even if we get to Thursday and you have not gotten to debating, you can allow us to come on Friday, debate and vote.
Yes, Senator Wambua.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, just two things. One is on the matter of your communication about how then we conduct ourselves from today going forward. Mr. Speaker, you have given direction. These phones. You have given direction, Mr. Speaker, that members should restrain themselves from making public utterances, especially on the substance of this impeachment, which is a good direction, Mr. Speaker. because we are going into a long weekend and we're engaging with our constituents, the temptation to prosecute this matter even before it comes here is very high. So that caution is good, Mr. Speaker. Only that, Mr. Speaker, I will hasten to add that listening to the public wherever I go, and I don't go to a lot of places, Mr. Speaker, the whole world, the whole country is looking up to the Senate for justice to be seen to be done. In fact, there wasn't so much attention on the proceedings in the National Assembly. A lot of people saying, let's wait for this matter to go to the Senate. Mr. Speaker, this is a time that then the Senate of the Republic of Kenya must demonstrate real leadership. And the prayers that were being made by Senator Cheragei and Senator Medhu sit very well. That, Mr. Speaker, the assurance you have given that both parties will have sufficient time to prosecute their cases and to do what they have to do. Mr. Speaker, let that assurance also go out that the judges sitting on this matter will also have sufficient time to reason, to caucus. Mr. Speaker, and when there is need for even members to take time off, 30, 40 minutes, to caucus and steer this thing properly. So, Mr. Speaker, we don't have, I would really hate to see a situation where we end up the way we did with the Kawira case, the Governor Kawira case, where the last minute of voting is so chaotic, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, one other thing that you may also need to...
Senator Kadure, just let him conclude so that I just give directions on this matter. Let us not prolong this debate.
Mr. Speaker, let me just conclude by saying that the other thing that you may also guide us now and into the debate is try and teach us on the issue of patience. People should patiently listen to others.
Just conclude.
And especially when I express an opinion that is not in line with your opinion.
What is your point of order, Senator
Oh,
Kadure?
my goodness.
Because you're really insisting.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, you know, if members will go that direction of Kawira Mwangaza case, Mr. Speaker, this case is in court. And what they're implying is that what was processed here was not right. Did you like? So it is not it is not standing very well, Mr. Speaker, sir, because this matter has not been determined in the court. And one of the issues that has been raised by the parties is that some of the members did not vote. There was no time for discussion and all those matters, Mr. Speaker. So I think it will not be fair to the Meru County community if we discuss this matter now, because it is an issue which is in court, Mr. Speaker.
Good. Honorable Senators, we shall conclude. No, it's me to conclude, Senator Wambua. Now, this is my direction, and it's very much what I've already directed. Honorable Wambua, which floor I have taken away from you? So, Senator Wambua, you're out of order and leave the chamber now for the rest of the day. Leave the chamber. We need to be orderly in this matter. We're going to handle a very heavy matter. We cannot have any senator heckling the speaker. As we go to this impeachment, you need to behave, Senator Wambua. Leave the chamber now for the rest of the sitting. Leave the chamber. Leave the chamber. Leave the chamber, Senator Wambua. Honorable Senators, the chapter we are just about to open, the process we are just about to undertake is extremely heavy. The country and the world is watching. Decorum is the least we'll be expecting from members. Senator Fernandi has raised a valid concern. Upon reading these charges, we have 10 days to conclude this process. I have directed that this matter be heard within 2 days. We have not seen the kind of documentation that is going to be filed. We have not seen the number of witnesses that are going to be called by each party. Once we see the documentation and the list of witnesses, and it becomes obvious that we cannot conclude this matter within 2 days, we have Friday. And therefore, let us cross the bridge when we get there. But one thing I want to assure the country is the Senate is going to do justice in this matter. All the parties are going to be given a fair, they're going to have their day in the Senate. There will be zero complaints after the conclusion of this matter. Let's rest it there, Honorable Senator. Next order.
Order number 9, procedural motion to hold sittings on Monday, 14th October 24, and alter the hours of meeting on Tuesday, 15th October 2024.
Majority Leader. Let's make progress, Senator Fatuma Dulu.
Mr. Speaker,
Let's make progress.
I beg to move the motion, which is for the Senate to hold sittings on Monday, the 14th of October 2024, and to alter the hours of meeting on Tuesday, 15th of October 2024. That notwithstanding the resolution of the Senate made pursuant to Standing Order number 32 of October of February, Order number 32 on 15th of February 2024, and 26th of June 2024, 19th of August 2024, and 17th of September 2024, and the approval of the Senate calendar, regular sessions for the third session 2024. The Senate resolves: 1, pursuant to Standing Order number 34-4C,
Majority Leader.
thank you.
May the Majority Leader be heard in silence.
Pursuant to Standing Order number 34-4C, to hold its sittings on Monday, the 14th of October 2024, starting at 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and 2:30 p.m. until the conclusion of business listed in the order paper of the day. 2, pursuant to Standing Order number 34-4B, to hold a morning sitting on Tuesday, the 15th of October 2024, starting at 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And 3, pursuant to Standing Order number 34-4A, extend its sitting time on Tuesday, 15th October 2024, afternoon sitting until the conclusion of the business listed in the order paper of the day, in order to investigate the proposed removal from office by impeachment of the Honorable Dr. Eric Kipkoech Mutai, the Governor of Kericho County. Mr. Speaker, sir, this is a procedural motion, and we have pointed out that for lack of flair in drafting both the special notice, special motion such as this, and the order, gazette notice, Mr. Speaker, we found ourselves with the challenge which many of our colleagues are actually discussing right now, where they felt that in handling of an impeachment procedure, we had too much to do within such a short time. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, if you see the way the motion has been drafted, it is until the business listed on the order paper is concluded on that day. So it's not unusual, Mr. Speaker, that we leave this house on certain days at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Has happened many times before. Mr. Speaker, because impeachments have got serious consequences. And impeachments, Mr. Speaker, are almost the last resort in a dispute resolution, Mr. Speaker, between the parties that are before each of us. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I want to urge senators, given if they approve this timetable, next week will be quite a heavy week for senators. On Monday and Tuesday, Mr. Speaker, we have this impeachment. You have just given direction, Mr. Speaker, that on Wednesday and Thursday as well, we have the impeachment motion or process of the Deputy President. Therefore, a lot of energy is required from senators next week. So all the senators, including the young ones like my kid brother Eddie, Mr. Speaker, need to spare energy this weekend, and so that next week they have a lot of energy in the House, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, finally, is just to note, Mr. Speaker, that this is a simple procedure motion, which I don't expect that there'd be a debate about. It's just agreeing on the times so that we can get the response and begin on the process. With those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move and request Senator Okongo Omogeni, my neighbor from Nyamira County, to second. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Okongo Omogeni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, I stand to second the motion by Majority Leader and the Senator of Kericho, my neighbor, and I agree that the matter is weighty. The Senate is on the spotlight. This is the time we need to demonstrate to the country that we are fair. We can discharge our functions impartially without fear and favor. And I second the motion, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senators, I propose the question that, notwithstanding the resolutions of the Senate made pursuant to Standing Order 32 on 15 February 2024, 26 June 2024, 19 August 2024, and 17 September 2024 on the approval of the Senate calendar regular sessions for the third session 2024, the Senate resolves: 1. Pursuant to Standing Order 34 4C, to hold sittings on Monday, 14th October 2024, starting at 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and 2:30 p.m. until conclusion of business listed in the order paper of the day. 2. Pursuant to Standing Order 34B, to hold a morning sitting on Tuesday, 15th October 2024, starting at 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And 3. Pursuant to Standing Order 4A, to extend the sitting time on Tuesday, 15th October 2024, afternoon sitting, until conclusion of business listed in the order paper of the day, in order to investigate the proposed removal from office by impeachment of the Honorable Dr. Eric Kipkoech Mutai, the Governor of Kericho County. Honorable Senators, I can see a few senators lined up here on my screen. So is that the mood of the House? Yes. Now let me hear the wisdom of Senator Sigei Wakiri.
Mr. Speaker, you may proceed to put the question.
Senator Andan Dulo Fatuma. Senator Derito John Kenywa. Majority leader will not teach me how to chair this.
Asante Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, mimi nasumbuka kwa sababu tayari tumejitia katika kitanzi, kwa sababu tayari tumesema zile siku ambazo tutakuwa tumezitenga ndio tuweze kujadili mswada huu. Bwana Spika, ni vile vile tukijipata katika ule mjadala alafu kutakuwa na masuala mengine nyeti. Bwana Spika, naona tutajipata katika tu ile sehemu ya kwamba hatuna muda wa kutosha kuyaangazia yale masuala kindani, kwa sababu tuwezi tukasema tutaenda siku ile nyingine ambayo ni siku ya Wednesday, kwa sababu tayari tumeitenga kwa shughuli nyingine tofauti. So, kwa hivyo Bwana Spika, ninasema kuendelea mbele Bwana Spika, pengine tungekuwa tukijipatia muda zaidi, lakini naunga mkono Bwana Spika.
Kwa hoja hii Seneta Kinywa, kwa hoja hii tuko nayo, iko wazi kabisa ya kwamba Jumanne tarehe 15 afternoon sitting tutakaa mpaka tumalize biashara, business listed in the order paper of the day. So that is why the majority leader and advised Senator Ndokech to preserve more energy over the weekend, so that even you can sit up to 6 a.m. on Wednesday morning until we clear the business that will be listed on the order paper. It is not specific on the day. It is until the business on the order paper is concluded. So it is not specific to midnight on Tuesday. It is until we clear the business. So I think you can also familiarize yourself with the order paper before or even when the question is put. Honorable Senators, I put the question that notwithstanding the dissolutions of the Senate made pursuant to Standing Order 32 on 15th February 2024, 26th June 2024, 19th August 2024, and 17th September 2024 on the approval of the Senate calendar regular sessions for the third session 2024, the Senate resolves one, pursuant to Standing Order 34-4C, to hold sittings on Monday, 14th October 2024, starting at 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and 2:30 p.m. until conclusion of business listed in the order paper of the day. And two, pursuant to Standing Order 34-4B, to hold a morning sitting on Tuesday, 15th October 2024, starting at 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And three, pursuant to Standing Order 34-4A, to extend its sitting time on Tuesday, 15th October 2024, afternoon sitting, until conclusion of business listed in the order paper of the day, in order to investigate the proposed removal from office by impeachment of the Honorable Dr. Eric Kipkoech Mutai, the Governor of Kericho County. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next one.
Order number 10, motion. Report of the 9th Interparliamentary Union Global Conference of Young Parliamentarians held in Hanoi, Vietnam from 15th to 17th September 2023.
Senator Mevdu was to move this motion, but I cannot see him around. Next order. So this motion is deferred until next time that will be allocated. Next order.
Order number 11, motion. Reports of the Kenya delegation to the 147th and 148th assemblies of the IPU and related meetings held in Luanda, Angola from 23rd to 27th October 2023 and in Geneva, Switzerland from 23rd to 27th March 2024 respectively.
Senator Catherine Muma.
Honorable Speaker, thank you. I wish to move the motion on the reports of the Kenya delegation to the 147th and 148th assemblies of the International Parliamentary Union, IPU, and related meetings that were held in Luanda, Angola, from 23rd to 27th October 2023, and in Geneva, Switzerland, from 23rd to 27th March 2024. That the Senate notes the reports of the Kenya delegation to the 147th and 148th assemblies of the Interparliamentary Union and related meetings in Luanda and the one in Geneva. Honorable Senators, Honorable Speaker, just key to note that the Kenyan delegation is represented in 5 committees by different members, including John Kiarie, who is in the Committee to Promote Respect for International Humanitarian Law. We have Honorable Naisula Lesuda, member of the Committee on Sustainable Development. We have Honorable Millie Odhiambo, who is the President of the Committee on the Human Rights for Parliamentarians. And then we have Honorable Rebecca Tonkei, who is a member of the Committee on the United Nations Affairs. Honorable Speaker, in the meeting in Luanda, I was appointed to be a member of the Working Group on Science and Technology. And the key activity in Luanda was the appointment of the Right Honorable Speaker Ackson Tulia from Tanzania as the first woman president to the IPU. And the Kenya delegation participated actively in the campaign to ensure that that seat came to East Africa. Honorable Speaker, in the Geneva meeting, one of the key issues that was discussed in the working group on science and technology was the preparation by IPU of a charter on the ethics of science and technology, so that parliamentarians can now start being involved in policies relating to matters, science and technology, especially issues of ethics of things like artificial intelligence. And Mr. Speaker, as we are speaking this week, the IPU meeting will begin in Geneva this week. Unfortunately, we will not be able to attend because of the impeachment program that we have, but the charter developed by this working group will be discussed. One of the things that is being recommended, Mr. Speaker, is parliaments around the world to start forming committees on science and technology to ensure that the scientists and parliamentarians can have conversation so that parliament can give guidance in terms of policy, and scientists can also engage with them so that we don't have science going rogue that is going to harm human beings. Mr. Speaker, I support. I submit. I lay the reports.
Senator Muma, you say you beg to move, and then also you get a seconder.
Apologies, Mr. Speaker. I wish to ask Senator Omogeni to second. Thank you.
Just pronounce yourself that you beg to move, then you ask him, request him to second. Okay.
I beg to move and ask Senator Mogeni to second.
Senator
Later your
Kwango
report to
Mgeni.
Yes.
And members, the reports are on our gadgets, so you can just check and get something to speak to.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand to second the report on the 147 Assembly of the Interparliamentary Union meeting and related matters that was held in Rwanda, Angola, that has been tabled by Senator Catherine Muma. Mr. Speaker, we live in a community of nations, and this initiative is very important among parliaments. It does a very good work, Mr. Speaker, because we cannot live in an island, Mr. Speaker. We need to measure what we are doing with what our brothers are doing in the neighboring countries, Mr. Speaker. And we hope, Mr. Speaker, as we send our members of parliament to these committees, we can deal with some of the serious issues that are affecting countries, especially, Mr. Speaker, issues of corruption. Mr. Speaker, when I used to serve in EACC, countries were trying to discuss, Mr. Speaker, how you can ensure that money that is being moved from one country to the other is discouraged by nations. I was seeing a debate, Mr. Speaker, on a TV station this morning, and the senator for Kisii was disclosing that there are governors who have bought 8 flats in a country in Europe called Spain. And he was appealing to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission to ensure that issues dealing with corruption are dealt with decisively, and the money that is sent to our counties is used for the benefit of the people who reside in counties. Issues dealing with climate change, Mr. Speaker, you can see the kind of floods that we are seeing in the US, Mr. Speaker. We need to be conscious that as a country, Mr. Speaker, we need not only to take care of our country called Kenya, Mr. Speaker, but that we need to also borrow from what we are seeing happening in other nations, Mr. Speaker. If we don't protect our environment, Mr. Speaker, we are exposing ourselves to risk. Issues like the threats that we face from terrorism. Mr. Speaker, before terrorists hit our nations, I remember that whenever we used to escort our brothers or relatives to the US, we used to walk inside the airport to escort them right to the entry to the airport. But because of terrorism, Mr. Speaker, you cannot even access, you can't enter the airport, Mr. Speaker, because of what terrorism has done to the country. So this is a very important, Mr. Speaker. We need to preach peace. We need to have tolerance among various faiths. In this House, Mr. Speaker, when I look at Senator Faki, I look at him as a Kenyan brother. I don't look at him as a Muslim. And I'm sure he also looks at me as a Christian, Mr. Speaker. We need to encourage people in the human race to live as brothers and sisters. So with those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I second this motion and pray that we can be a country that can preach peace. Nobody is happy with what is happening in the Middle East. We are not happy with the escalation of war in the Middle East. When there is war in the Middle East, the effects affect many countries. I hope that the UN, the United Nations, can push for a peaceful resolution with the disputes we are seeing in the Middle East, Mr. Speaker, so that Palestinians, Israelis, the people in Syria, and all those countries, Mr. Speaker, we want to see them live in peace, Mr. Speaker. When I was a young child, I used to hear about Palestinian Liberation Organization. led by Yasser Arafat. Now I'm almost becoming a senior citizen. The disputes in the Middle East are still ongoing. The wars that we used to see in Angola, you still keep on hearing about war in Angola, Mr. Speaker, the war in Chad. We need to see the universe having countries that can live in peace, where we are all brothers and sisters who can cross from one border to the other, like what's happening within the European nations, where you can move from one country in Europe to the other. I wish that can extend to the whole world, Mr. Speaker. I don't need to queue to the American embassy, seeking for a visa, reporting there at 6 a.m., pay a whooping, I think close to 100,000 before I can get my visa to travel to the US. We need to accept that the human race, we are created by God as one person in the Garden of Eden, and that is the spirit that we should see world over. So, Mr. Speaker, I second. Thank you.
Honorable Senators, Honorable Senator, can wait a bit. I'll give you 1 minute to close the door. Honorable Senators, I propose the question that the Senate notes the reports of the Kenyan delegation to the 147th and 148th Assemblies of the Interparliamentary Union, IPU, and related meetings held in Luanda, Angola, from 23rd to 27th October 2023, and on the table of the Senate on Thursday, 29th February 2024, and Geneva, Switzerland, from 23rd to 27th March 2024, and on the table of the Senate on Thursday, 30th May 2024. I'm now inviting senators to contribute to this very, very important report on interparliamentary union. You know, Senator Mugatana actually contributes on these international issues so much, but today I don't know where his mind is. I think I'm being distracted by the senator from Ram County. Because this is similar to what you do in the
yes, Mr. Speaker,
in the African Parliament.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to debate the report of the Interparliamentary Union that was held in Angola, Luanda, Angola, from 23rd to 27th October 2023. Mr. Speaker, as you have correctly talked about, there is a very big role that parliaments all over the world play in terms of cooperation, coordination, and ensuring that the representatives of the people around the world come together and discuss issues that are relevant. Mr. Speaker, on this meeting that was held in Luanda, a lot of things were discussed, Mr. Speaker. A lot of things were discussed, but I would like to dwell on the issue that focused on global food security. Mr. Speaker, there are many challenges, and it was recognized by the parliaments that were seated in Luanda, Angola, that many parliaments in many parts of the world are affected by the problems of food insecurity. Mr. Speaker, there are lots of problems. The world is not being able to feed itself, and there are people who are living in areas that are frequently hit by climate-related disasters. And Mr. Speaker, during this meeting in Luanda, there was a focus on what was happening in the El Nino time, at that time, Mr. Speaker. And there was a relation in these discussions about droughts that had increased. And at that time, Mr. Speaker, they were talking also about the cycles of the droughts and the El Nino phenomena that was affecting food production and jeopardizing even stability of food supply across the world. Mr. Speaker, these parliaments also discussed the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, that so many people were not able to access their farms, so many people were not able to be engaged usefully so that they can produce food. And Mr. Speaker, apart from the climate issues, the question of the COVID pandemic was discussed. Mr. Speaker, other problems, including the increase on the prices of fertilizers, was also discussed. These challenges, Mr. Speaker, were put on those parliaments and discussed, so that Kenya also was part of those discussions, Mr. Speaker, that raised the challenges affecting food, including the increase on the prices of fertilizers. Mr. Speaker, the general conclusions of our members of parliament who went there, who participated in this conference, in this interparliamentary union meeting, was that there was need for them to come back home, and on this issue of global food security, there was need for them to come back home and communicate to their governments that fresh efforts need to be put so that, Mr. Speaker, an emphasis on food production, on stability of food supply within their own countries, so that each parliament, when they discuss there, they're supposed to come here, and then we also approve these reports, and these reports are taken to the relevant government departments to implement. So one of the important things that was discussed was the global food security. And Mr. Speaker, the resolution was that we need to come back home and tell our governments, and in this particular issue, is to talk about the strategies that the government of Kenya, like other governments, would take on new strategies that will ensure food security within their countries. Mr. Speaker, during those discussions in Angola, a total of 22 delegates took to the floor to share their experiences and insights concerning the concerning the pressing issues of ensuring a stable and sustainable food supply for the world's population. Mr. Speaker, concerns were given from the global north, from the global south, and all these delegates, Mr. Speaker, they were able to explain their experiences, Mr. Speaker. And I have given the general challenges that we had and were explained in these debates. Every delegate explained what was happening in their home countries, Mr. Speaker, and what they thought strategies that could help in terms of ensuring that food stability is achieved within the continent. Mr. Speaker, there are many strategies that were given. Some of them we are already employing, And we know our Department of Agriculture in this country is doing what it needs to do to ensure that we have food, enough food supply for this country. But one of the things that was discussed as a strategy and that needs to be emphasized here in Kenya is that we need, Mr. Speaker, to involve our youth in production that is agricultural production. Mr. Speaker, for a very long time, people used to think that it is unfashionable to go into agriculture. Our children, and even in our generation and the generation that followed us, a lot of people would aspire to be professionals in various fields, in engineering, in the practice of law, like I did, in medicine, in architecture, and all these other big professions. Mr. Speaker, as we went on, the other generation that came after us, they would aspire to be IT specialists. They would aspire to open companies in that area that was practically new at the time, in our time, and maybe go into technology-oriented businesses. But very few people, Mr. Speaker, would aspire to be top agriculturalists. People would aspire to inherit the lands from their parents and make them productive. Mr. Speaker, in terms of all these resolutions that were passed, and the one that I want to emphasize so much to increase our food production, Mr. Speaker, we need to make agriculture in Kenya sexy. We need to make it very attractive to the young people. We need our young people to start seeing this as an opportunity to add something. Instead, Mr. Speaker, of just thinking of opening a kiosk to sell cigarettes or something, we need to actually tell our young people that agriculture is a good thing that you can do. If you don't want to do agriculture to produce crops, we need to go into other forms of agriculture. People are raising chickens, people are raising farm animals, people are doing all manner of things around the space of agriculture. Mr. Speaker, some of the people who have really made it in this life are people who have been selling eggs, are people who have been doing business around wheat farming, are people who have been doing business around maize growing, are people who have been supplying the Kenya Meat Commission. We need to carry out a massive re-education of our minds. We must tell our children that it is good to actually be able to feed yourself. If you are at home, we must tell our children that it is good to go to the farm, and they must see us do this so that it is accepted as a fashionable thing to do. Mr. Speaker, I will not be saying enough if I don't mention the fact that some of our TV stations have done an extremely good job. And I want to single out two national TV stations that I have seen. They take their time, Mr. Speaker, to discuss about programs on agricultural production. And I'm so impressed that even the presenters, they are young people who are doing that kind of work. And Mr. Speaker, the prayer is that we will be able to push this idea, that it will be acceptable amongst our children, and it be fashionable, so that once they accept these ideas, Mr. Speaker, they will be able to go into agriculture, food production, and hopefully, Mr. Speaker, as we increase our own production within our own families, within our own villages, within our own wards, within our own constituency, we become secure, then the country as a whole will become secure. And this is the message that parliamentarians are sending to the government of Kenya when we met here. And with those very many remarks, I beg to support this report. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senators, there being no other senators wishing to contribute, I call upon the mover to reply. Senator Muma.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I would like to thank Honorable Mungatana and Honorable Mogeni for contributing to this motion. Honorable Speaker, as we participate in international conversations with other parliaments around the world, as we attend these meetings, I wish to bring it to the attention of the House that these are spaces that are extremely important, because we get to learn what is happening around the world, and we borrow from each other and develop and strengthen international cooperation, particularly cooperation around the parliaments of the world. The Interparliamentary Union is the union of all parliaments of the world, except very few of those. Mr. Speaker, as we have met in during this session, very key issues have been discussed, including peace and security, and how the different nations can come together to strengthen the rules and regulations that we have internationally on peace and security, the rules and regulations around matters food security, rules and regulations around sustainable development, rules and regulations on other issues, particularly emerging issues. When I moved the motion, I spoke about the Science and Technology Committee that I'm sitting in, Mr. Speaker, that has been a very educative forum. Very educative forum because there are so many things we take for granted. And you find that the world is actually going to centrally driven by technology. And we are all going there, but possibly not planning for it properly. And the parliaments of this world and parliamentarians do not necessarily have the capacity to be able to know what kind of policy can they support within their arms of government. So these sessions enable us to be able to converse and to be able to see how to move legislation in these areas. One of the ongoing conversations technically that is happening is the matter of internet governance. Honorable Speaker, I don't think anybody is moving serious legislation and policy around internet governance in this country. And internet governance is a complex issue that would require that we refocus, knowing that internet actually makes the globe a one center. Because with internet, you are able to access information, not just from your own country, but from other countries. And we need to be able to think on how we can have complex regulations that can ensure that as we use internet, as it enables us to move on many fronts, that it will also be able to be a safe space, particularly for those who are vulnerable, including minors. We would not know how to do these things unless we deliberately are trained on this. And I'm not aware of, at the Kenya level, any trainings that our own parliament or PSC has put in place to guide us on understanding the complex scientific areas that require that we regulate. Mr. Speaker, in the Angola meeting, one of the things that came up, one of the resolutions that was moved by the Committee on Democracy and Human Rights was a resolution on orphanage trafficking. And this, Kenya actually had 6 amendments to this resolution, and we actually managed to get 5 of them taken up. And when I came back home, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to report that I have actually, with the support of the legal department, we are drafting an amendment to our Child Trafficking Act, because in that act we never contemplated trafficking that happens around the orphanage. Mr. Speaker, a lot of child trafficking is happening, and you will be amazed or shocked that part of what is happening is people will set up institutions in the name of helping children, but those institutions are being used to traffic children out of one country into another. So this is a conversation we've had in IPU, and we have resolved that as the countries go back, one of the ways of strengthening, ensuring that we police against child trafficking is to strengthen our laws on orphanage trafficking. And I have put in place something in regard to that. As I had said earlier, I'm also hoping that both National Assembly and the Senate can think of a way of coming up with committees that address science and technology in terms of impacts of technology on human rights as we move on. And I believe that as we continue to participate, we will be able to improve on legislation here. Mr. Speaker, as I finalize, I would like to make a plea that usually we participate in the big assembly meetings of IPU, of the Commonwealth, of the Pan-African Parliament. I want to state that before the big meetings, we have technical committees where the technical issues are discussed. And usually we are not facilitated to participate in that. And you'll find that when you go now to the assembly, the countries whose membership have seriously participated in the technical sessions of the committees are well versed or better versed with the issues that they are presenting. So I'd like to request that the Office of the Speaker consider that in some of these meetings that we will be able to facilitate members to participate in a few of the technical issues, particularly those that are drafting issues that come before the Assembly. I therefore wish to thank my colleagues for contributing to this motion, and I wish to ask that to request the Speaker to defer the putting of the question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. This motion will be deferred to a later date. Next order. Sorry.
Order number 12, motion. The report of the Kenya delegation to the extraordinary session of the 6th Parliament of the Pan-African Parliament held at the Gallagher Convention Center, Midrand, South Africa from 20th to 27th March 2024.
Senator Mungatana.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to move. This will be a very brief one. And I will request the Honorable Catherine Muma to second me. Mr. Speaker, we had the session of the Pan-African Parliament in South Africa. Mr. Speaker, the Pan-African Parliament is an important parliament because that is where all African nations come together to discuss the issues that affect Africa. Mr. Speaker, previously, those presidents who held a vision to bring Africa together and create a united Africa, the likes of Kwame Nkrumah, the likes of Julius Nyerere, and the likes of many of these presidents who came together, they wanted to create a government a system that would enable consultations at government levels. Mr. Speaker, once the governments agreed, it was deemed necessary to have another body where the peoples of Africa can be seated together to discuss on behalf of the representatives of the people. So then a parliament was then created, and this is where we are, the Pan-African Parliament. So Speaker, I head that delegation, but members of the delegation include our own Senator Professor Margaret Kamar. Also from the National Assembly, we have Esther Passaris, Joseph Kalasinga Majimbo, and Rehab Mukami. So the 5 of us, like all other nations, the 55 countries of Africa, we sent 5 people there. Mr. Speaker, the delegation participated in an election. This was an extraordinary meeting which was called so that we can have an election. And Mr. Speaker, so that the country can know what happens. In Pan-African Parliament, we follow the African Union parliamentary, the African Union principle of rotation, so that if the president of the Union of the Pan-African Parliament comes from the Southern Caucasus, in the next time it is the Eastern, in the next time it is the Northern, and we go on rotating like that. So these elections were done, and Mr. Speaker, it was a successful election. It brought order to the Parliament of Africa, and Mr. Speaker, it is good to note that the new committee that was elected, which we call the Bureau there, is President Honorable Chief Fortune Zephania Charumbira. The first Vice President was Honorable Professor Masuda Mohamed Lakdaf. The second Vice President was Honorable Ashebir Wale Georges Gayo. And the third Vice President was Honorable Lucia Dos Passos. Fourth Vice President was Honorable Jija Mamar Mahat. So, Mr. Speaker, it was a brief session, and there were some issues that made the Parliament not to work for some time, but after this election, those issues were resolved, and Pan-African Parliament was able to move forward. And I want to take this opportunity to thank the entire delegation that we went there. We worked very well, and we made sure that Kenya was well represented during these campaigns and even during these elections in every part. Mr. Speaker, before I sit, it's important for me to say the following, that we had an important engagement with our High Commission in South Africa. And Mr. Speaker, the High Commission in South Africa has expressed its desire that we make it clear that Kenya and South Africa have had a long relationship. Since when South Africa got its independence, or its first democratically elected president in 1994, we've had good relationship with South Africa. But when it comes to trade, the message is that we are still having a very unfavorable balance of trade between the two nations. South Africa, although Kenya is a big economy, but South Africa is exporting to Kenya high value items, like they have a BMW factory there. So when they sell these things, all our agricultural and whatever products, they measure little as against the value that they send to this country. So it is time that Kenyans, and this is the message from the High Commission, it is time that Kenyans take up opportunities that are being provided in South Africa. We have signed a bilateral that allowed favorable trade so that Kenyans who are going to South Africa to do business are never disturbed. And Kenya also took the opportunity to not to require visas, just like now we don't require when we go to South Africa. South Africa followed it. So we have opportunities for those who think they can make a life to go there. So aside from the Pan-African meeting that we did, we also visited the High Commission, and the High Commission has asked us to encourage our people to also look at opportunities down in South Africa. With those very many remarks, I know I had asked the Honorable Catherine Muma to second, but I have seen, yeah? Okay, so I will then ask Honorable Muma to second the motion. I beg to move, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Senator Muma.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to second the motion on the report of the Kenya delegation to the extraordinary session of the 6th Parliament of the Pan-African Parliament held at the Gallagher Convention Center, Midrand, South Africa, from 20th to 27th March 2024. Mr. Speaker, as I have said in the earlier conversation, these meetings are very, very important, and they add to expanding our knowledge as parliamentarians and to come up with the ideas that can help us to inject a newness and inject innovation, drawing from what other parliaments are doing around the world. The Pan-African Parliament in particular, Mr. Speaker, is one where I think we can do a lot more. And even as colleagues participate in this forum, I wish to urge them to help to bring the conversation of expanding trade in Africa a lot more. Mr. Speaker, it is strange that some West African countries have to go to Europe before they come back to East Africa. It is strange that a number of countries in Africa get simple food products all imported from Europe. When, Mr. Speaker, I think the food produce that Honorable Mungatana was speaking about is plenty on the African continent. And if we open the routings, trade routings across Africa and amongst the African countries, Mr. Speaker, we will actually enrich our continent much faster. So I would want to request that our colleagues on Pan-African, on the Pan-African Parliament steer the conversation and spearhead a conversation that can actually see an open Africa where we are trading with each other more and we are focusing a lot on intra-Africa trade than the opening up trade elsewhere. I therefore second, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senators, I propose the question that the Senate notes the report of the Kenya delegation to the extraordinary session of the 6th Parliament of the Pan-African Parliament held at the Gallagher Convention Center, Midrand, South Africa, from 20th to 27th March 2024, laid on the table of the Senate on Wednesday, 24th April 2024. Senator Margaret Kamar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to support the motion on the report from the Pan-African Parliament. As has been mentioned by our chair and our very able leader of the delegation, the Honorable Mungatana, I am a member of this delegation, Mr. Speaker. And I really appreciate the work that goes on in the Pan-African Parliament. It is out of the coming together of the African nations that we can realize the real development of the continent. As was mentioned by the Honorable Senator Catherine Muma, it surprises you that the closures of boundaries, the boundaries that we have today, have disadvantaged the continent more than it has helped. It has destroyed neighborhoods, and at the moment, Mr. Speaker, we are at the point of discussing the African Free Trade Area. You will notice, Mr. Speaker, that the boundaries, the borders between countries in this continent were established by the colonialists, not by the Africans themselves. So families were separated. And these boundaries are either roads or rivers or lakes. So they make absolutely no sense. And one very good example, Mr. Speaker, is the river that divides Uganda and Kenya, which divided the Awori family. So we have our own former president in Kenya, Moody Awori, on the side of Kenya. And the time when he was the vice president in Kenya, we had a minister in Uganda called Agri Awori. His own brother, one father, one mother, following one another in birth. But because the river divided their land, and they had both sides of the land, some were called Ugandans, and others were called Kenyans. This is true for most neighborhoods along the boundaries in the continent of Africa. So as the heads of state are now discussing the unification as far as trade is concerned, to enable free movement of goods and free movement of persons, it is the thing that is going to develop the continent. Because this boundary issue is what has caused enmity between peoples who were friends. It has created tension between people who didn't even know what it means to have a name called a country. So, Mr. Speaker, I want the senators here to note that very soon we are going to come to this House to request for ratification of the protocol on the African Free Trade Area after. And that is going to be a breakthrough for the continent. There are a number of protocols that we hope can be ratified soon. We have the Malabo Protocol that has not been ratified in this House. We have a number of other laws, model laws that are developed by the Pan-African Parliament. In the Pan-African Parliament, Mr. Speaker, one of our projects is to develop model laws. Why model laws? We develop model laws because we are developing standards that we expect different countries to go and adopt. Now, when we pass model laws in the Pan-African Parliament, it is expected that every country will use the same model law to introduce amendments to their own laws so that we have some standards. And I want to say, to mention just a few areas where we need standards, Mr. Speaker. We need standards in mining so that the laws of mining and exploration can be the same. We know that Africa is very rich when it comes to minerals. But because of the different approaches to mining, because of the different ways in which policies have been crafted in the different countries, it is very easy for one to mine in Uganda, sell in Kenya, using a completely different regime. And this becomes very, very dangerous because then you have smugglers coming in. Because if it is easier to mine in Kenya and go and sell in Uganda, then the policy in Kenya allows you to mine and sell and does not allow you to sell in the same manner that a neighbor sells. It is very easy for one to use the policies and the rules in one country to their own advantage and move to the next country to do the same. Mr. Speaker, I'm mentioning mineral resources because one of the things that is now coming up in the Pan-African Parliament is that there is need to add value. And we need to have a standard way of adding value because we know that we have lost a lot as a continent because we have not been able to add value to the natural resources that we have. What is the implication? The implication is that we have sold things very cheaply as a continent, and we go back and import the same after they have been value added more expensively. So we are the original owners of the products, but then we only enjoy a product that has been added value more expensively. And that will make the continent remain very poor. Mr. Speaker, we have a model law that has come on agriculture, which I hope, again, we'll be able to adopt and cause our own laws to be changed as a House. We are happy because Esther Passaris, who is a member of the Pan-African Parliament, is a member of the Agriculture and Rural Development Committee, and she is going to table the model law and transmit it to this House. And once it comes to this House, we will use it to amend because we know agriculture is dominantly devolved, and this is the House that should make decisions. So there are many other laws that are coming. We are coming up with laws that to do with trade. Mr. Speaker, I sit in the Trade Committee, and we are working on the issue of the free trade area currently, and we are really pushing hard to make sure that this continent becomes open. We know that there is, within the agreement of the African free trade area agreement, it is clear that when we have about 8 members having ratified, they are allowed to proceed. And we are going to urge the East African community to proceed with that. We know that currently we have the customs union between the East African countries. And again, even as we are working on that, one of the objectives of the African Union is to make sure that the regional economic blocks like the East African community can integrate further and be the role models when it comes to integration. And this is what we are going to push for ourselves as the East African region, using the model that has been successful in allowing trade between the states of the East African community so that we can spread out, because the East African region under the African Union has more countries, in fact, than what the East African community has. We have Ethiopia, we have Djibouti, we have the islands, Madagascar and Seychelles, and we need to expand that integration and to allow free movement. Mr. Speaker, we are proud as Kenya that the head of state made a pronouncement that people, the Africans, anybody from the continent of Africa can get into Kenya without a visa. That if you, for any country that still has to do anything, you do your processing even at the airport. This is what we are looking for under the African Union, and this is what the Pan-African Parliament is pushing for. We are pushing for free movement of persons, we are pushing for free movement of goods so that we can trade between ourselves better, and we open the airspace, because unless we open the airspace, Mr. Speaker, it becomes extremely expensive for an African to move within the continent. One of the things that we are looking at right now to enable the free trade is looking at the infrastructure. The infrastructure requires that we have railway lines connecting, railway connectivity between countries in the continent. We want to have road networks between the country. We are very, very happy that with the candidature, as a delegation, we are very happy with the candidature of the Right Honorable Amolo Odinga. The main reason is that he was in charge of the African infrastructure before. So the priorities that he had put in place are the priorities that are now at the committee stage, when we are telling ourselves we need to have road networks, We need to have rail networks so that we can have a railway line that starts from Cape Town all the way to Cairo. Then we have rails from Nairobi all the way to the west, to Senegal. These are some of the things that were emphasized when our own candidate, Raila Amolo Odinga, was in charge of infrastructure. It is our prayer as a House that he will win that position so that he moves this ahead. Mr. Speaker, may I finally say we are very grateful as a delegation that we have been given the opportunity to take up this great responsibility, and we believe that with the leadership of the Honorable Mungatana, we will even participate more and we will give more reports in this House so that the House can be moving with us. With those remarks, Mr. Speaker, I support.
Thank you, Senator Esther.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. First, I wish to support this report by the members of the Pan-African Parliament who represented us in South Africa, led by the able Senator of Tana River, Senator Danson Mungatana. Senator Mungatana has been very consistent, especially anytime he represents this House in international fora. He quickly comes back and shares lessons learned with the members of this House. And I know that some of us who are following in those footsteps are actually going to reap big and also share with the rest of the Kenyans who are watching some of these discussions. Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me to just note a key area of interest. This is on trade. As a member of the Trade Committee of the Senate earlier this year, we were fortunate enough to have an address by the Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area, that is Wamkele Mene. And he took us through what their agenda is and how they want to synergize with African countries. And I want to note that there is already political goodwill from Kenya as a country, led by the president, who actually has been on the front line, pushing for Africa being very open to trade and encouraging the rest of the Kenyans who are in those other countries to participate. It's a very good opportunity for Kenyans to also take this chance and do trade in South Africa, and also for South Africans to also cross borders and come and trade with Kenyans. That's the whole essence of a borderless Africa, especially when it comes to trade. Mr. Speaker, sir, also, the Pan-African Parliament, whatever issues that are being discussed in that parliament are very key, especially to Africans, because that parliament represents legislators who have been sent from different countries in Africa, and we tend to think whatever proposal that originate from brains in the Pan-African Parliament should address most of the challenges we as a continent and as a country are facing. So we need to have more of these proposals and solutions that are being offered by the Pan-African Parliament be implemented in the member states so that we can make progress. Let it not be after every mission we still have the same agenda we are revisiting. We need to make progress so that there is value for investing in our African states. Mr. Speaker, sir, also, Africa is a very key, it's a very key continent, and that's why you see even other countries in the rest of the world wanting to follow closely what we as a continent are engaging in. Look at even the African Union elections that we are actually pitching up for with the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. It's very instrumental, and that's why citizens need to realize that it's not just an interest of a country, but they are equally affected in what goes on around the continent, because challenges Africans in Kenya are experiencing are the same challenges Africans in Ghana are experiencing, the same challenges Africans in Botswana are experiencing, and solutions are somehow similar. So I urge my colleague members of parliament to support this report and walk the talk from some of these proposals, so that we even give the members who normally go representing us in the Pan-African Parliament reason to agitate strongly for some of the proposals we are giving. So thank you, Mr. Speaker, and let me just conclude by saying that this is also a very good opportunity, not just for senior citizens who are very much abled economically, but for young people, because young people are very quick, especially in this digital era, to connect across the continent and can therefore boost their networking skills, especially in business, not just selling in Kenya, but selling across the continent. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Beatrice Ogola.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. From the onset, Honorable Speaker, I want to applaud the very senior delegation and led by Senator Danson Mungatana, the leader of the delegation. Honorable Speaker, the delegation is composed of very, very senior legislatures, and we are happy also to benefit from their wisdom, from their institutional memory of the legislative arm of our government. Senator Mungatana has a rich history, both from his profession and from his work in Parliament, as demonstrated even by his contributions and by his debates right at the Senate. Senator Professor Margaret Kamar is a seasoned legislator, and we remain very proud of the delegation that has really made this report. Honorable Speaker, as I support this report, I also look forward to an African that will be very proud of, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I would like an African that will be working towards the preservation, conservation of our resources, the vast resources that we have in this region. There is no African country, Honorable Speaker, that is not blessed with great resources. And so, in this report, I want to be I'm very happy even about the composition of the PAP committees as presented in this report. If you look at number clause 13, you see the committees there: the Committee on Rural Economy, Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Environment. Honorable Speaker, other than the conservation of our resources, I look forward to an Africa that will have an harmonized air travel, Honorable Speaker. We have often heard at public forums where the Right Honorable former Prime Minister, the Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, talk about the challenges we have in the air travel in Africa, about the various barriers that are there, and about the so many clearances that you have to get if you are to fly over the African airspace. And it is so then, Honorable Speaker, that I support this report as I look forward to the discussion of some of these challenges and then so that we are able to have a solution to some of these challenges. Honorable Speaker, I also look forward to a more harmonized currency across Africa. Honorable Speaker, we know and as was echoed by my senior Senator Kamar, that Africa was one, and we were made to feel that you are Kenya, you are Uganda, you are Botswana, you are Rwanda, you are all over all these countries that were created from the same block. I look forward, Honorable Speaker, to a day when I could travel from Kenya and go north and go south and go west, but only use one currency. And it is based on that I support the report, because we are looking forward to eminent solutions that will come from this engagement. Honorable Speaker, in the report they've reference to a number of objectives of the Pan-African Parliament. Honorable Speaker, I'm keen on good governance around the continent. I'm keen on an Africa that will be peaceful, that will be secure, an African where issues of human rights take precedence. I'm looking forward to an Africa that will have an enhanced infrastructure other than the air travel. Honorable Speaker, we can have an enhanced road network, we can have an enhanced water transport, and that can only come forward with the objectives that has been set by the Pan-African Parliament. Honorable Speaker, I look forward to an Africa that will address collectively the challenges we are facing on climate change. Honorable Speaker, just last year, some of us attended COP28, and we are looking forward to engagement, a world engagement on COP29. But Honorable Speaker, as I rise here and support this report, I'm looking forward to an Africa that will have one stand, that will collectively engage, that will collectively push for the agenda of climate change and all the challenges that Africa goes through. Honorable Speaker, I cannot forget to say that under the climate change, we should be addressing, as Africa, we should be addressing the issue of climate justice or injustice, and particularly to Africa. When you look at our contribution to global emissions, Honorable Speaker, Africa, we feel there's unjust, that while globally other countries or other regions contribute more to the global emission, Africa unjustly suffers so much at the hands of those global emitters. But interestingly, Honorable Speaker, we do not see the same contribution by those countries that globally emit more than Africa. We only see Africa getting a paltry. And so, Honorable Speaker, as I support this report, I would like an Africa that will address such challenges collectively as the Africa that we were. Honorable Speaker, as I wind up my support for this report, I would like an Africa that will be looking at the future collectively. And that brings me to the just initiated Futures Caucus, as initiated by Senator of Narok, Senator Olekina, that we should have a continent that will be driving a future agenda, that we should have a continent that will be looking at future solutions, right from the challenges we have in agriculture, infrastructure, education, health, climate change, as I've stated, and globally on all. Africa must relook at our education system, and I support.
Senator Beatrice Ogola, you'll have a remainder of 7 minutes when this motion resumes next. Honorable Senators, it is now 1 p.m., time to adjourn the Senate. The Senate therefore stands adjourned until today, Wednesday, 9th October 2024 at 2:30 p.m.
Cabinet Secretary will be responding to a question by the Nairobi City County Senator Honorable Edwin Sifuna, and this is with regards to the staffing levels by cadre at the Kenya Embassy in Washington, D.C., the 2 consulates in Los Angeles and New York, and outline the roles of staff serving in each cadre. Also explain how the staffing levels have impacted the operational efficacy of the said diplomatic missions, and clarify whether there are any plans to deploy additional staff, and whether the Cabinet Secretary could also explain the delay in the issuance of national identity cards to Kenyans residing in the United States of America, and state what the ministry is doing to resolve the issue. That is the sole a question from a member as listed in the order of business for today. Of course, you understand that there are usually supplementary questions from the other members, but they have to be linked to this particular subject matter. The Cabinet Secretary for East African Community, the ASALs and Regional Development will also be responding to one question, or rather questions from one member as listed in this order paper, aside from the supplementary questions that will be coming along with regards to the details of these questions and the responses that will be given. Is the questions from the Senator for West Pokot County, Honorable Julius Murgor, and this is with regards to details of the socio-economic activities carried out by the Kerio Valley Development Authority, if you like KVDA, in West Pokot County. Also residents of West Pokot who have been employed by the KVDA. Also the land that was acquired by the government for the construction of Takwel Dam, as well as when the when the irrigation of the residents' farm will commence as promised by the government during the construction of the dam, and this is the Takwel Dam. At the entrance, that is the Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Amason Jeffa King, already approaching the chair. Allow me to hand you over to this live broadcast brought to you by PBU in partnership with KBC. Good morning.
Na tuombe. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu, tutakusihi tutazame kwa neema nyingi na baraka sisi watumishi wako ambao umeridhika kutuita kwa nyadhifa za uongozi katika jamhuri hii yetu. Tukuomba tuwajalie tuyatende na kufikia mambo yote yatakayofikishwa mbele yetu kwa njia ya haki na uaminifu, ili kustawisha amani, ufanisi na heri ya nchi yetu na wale ambao haja zao umezikabidhi mikononi mwetu. Amen. Clerk, do we have quorum? Sergeant at Arms, kindly ring the quorum bell for 10 minutes.
Well, as the quorum bell is on, members will be making their way into the chambers. And once that quorum is achieved, then we will be going right into the business that is set out to be transacted in this sitting, or rather in this morning sitting. 3 cabinet secretaries, as I had indicated earlier, are set out to appear before the Senate chambers this morning, of course, to respond to various questions that were raised by the honorable members. And these questions, they were forwarded to the cabinet secretaries, and the cabinet secretaries have responses to these questions, which they will be presenting before the senators to respond to the queries or concerns that they had raised. the Cabinet Secretary, that is the Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, also the Cabinet Secretary for East African Community, the ASALs and the Regional Development, and also the Cabinet Secretary for Health are set out to appear before the Senate this morning. The Cabinet Secretary for Health will be responding to 6 questions as laid out on the order paper for this morning from 5, other from 4 senators. The nominated senator, Honorable Peris Tobiko, has laid out 3 questions. The first question will be with regards to the Linda Mama initiative, which sought to achieve universal access to maternal and child health services. Also with regards to the EduAfya insurance scheme, which she says leaves the poor and vulnerable students in public secondary schools without medical cover. Also with regards to the National Health Insurance Fund, whether the members are able to access services in all public and private medical facilities, and if not, whether the Cabinet Secretary could explain the reasons for the same. The member, Honorable Peris Tobiko, also will be seeking the Cabinet Secretary for Health to respond to issues concerning any initiatives to enhance the capacity of the Kenya healthcare system to provide specialized treatment for endometriosis. Also, any measures that have been taken to raise awareness on the condition. Well, allow me to hand you over back to the
questions and statements. Now, we have the Prime Cabinet Secretary present today for purposes of responding to question number 99 by the Nairobi City County Senator, Senator Edwin Sifuna. And therefore, I'm not seeing Senator Edwin Sifuna. Clerk, can you proceed to usher in the Prime Cabinet Secretary? So the 2 CSS, health and whatever. Health. Now we had anticipated, or we expected today to have 3 CSs, that is the Prime Cabinet Secretary, the ESC CS, and the CS in charge of health matters. However, we have since received 2 letters, one from the CS in charge of ESC, indicating that she is not in a position to attend this session today for purposes of responding to the questions directed to her ministry, and also the CS in charge of health. She's also indicated that she's not in a position to attend today's session for purposes of responding to the questions directed to her ministry. And therefore, we only have the Prime Cabinet Secretary present today for purposes of responding to the question directed to his ministry by the Nairobi City County Senator, Senator Edwin Sifuna. And therefore, for this session, we are going to proceed with the Prime Cabinet Secretary only, because the 2 others are not present today. What do you think? So, Prime Cabinet Secretary, let me take this opportunity to welcome you to the Senate, a place that we are extremely familiar with. Welcome this morning. We are going to have a very heavy day, honorable senators. And I may limit even the number of supplementary questions that may be directed to the Cabinet Secretary so that we handle the other heavy agenda that will be laid before us. We expect a supplementary order paper as these proceedings will be ongoing so that we prosecute other urgent matters. With that, I will allow the Senator for Nairobi City County, Senator Edwin Sifuna, to proceed and ask his.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. As you're aware, over the period of 16th to 31st of August of this year, I had opportunity to visit the US with your kind support, Honorable Speaker. Period, I had opportunity to engage with Kenyans living in the US, in the cities of Chicago, Seattle, Washington, D.C., and Houston. And it is the genesis of these questions that I've posed to the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs out of my interaction with the Kenyans, and including our diplomats at the Kenyan Embassy in Washington, D.C. Honorable Speaker, unfortunately, as I speak, I have not received the hard copy responses, but I hope the Secretariat is making arrangements. So I'm not aware whether the CS has actually put in written responses. But these are the questions, Honorable Speaker, and I will read the three of them. I'm sure that the CS can answer all of them at once. The first question to the CS is, could the Cabinet Secretary indicate the staffing levels by cadre at the Kenya Embassy in Washington, D.C., and the two Kenya consulates in Los Angeles and New York, and outline the roles of staff serving in each cadre? Secondly, Honorable Speaker, could the Cabinet Secretary explain how the staffing levels have impacted the operational efficiency of the said diplomatic missions, and clarify whether there are any plans to deploy additional staff? Lastly, Honorable Speaker, could the Cabinet Secretary also explain the delay in the issuance of national identity cards to Kenyans residing in the US, and state what the ministry is doing to resolve the issue? I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Prime Cabinet Secretary, you may proceed to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first I would like to state that the hard copy has been released. Maybe it's just a delay to get to you, but it had been signed. On the first aspect of his question, to indicate the staffing levels by cadre at the Kenyan Embassy in Washington, D.C., the two consulates in Los Angeles and New York, and outline the staff. I wish to, in the hard copy, in the response I've given, I've tabled the details. Home-based staff is the in-post. I've done the same agencies, and attaché, foreign relations officer. So in total, there is an indication. We indicate that the authorized is 17. But we have a deficit, and the authorized, the in-post is 14. So there's a variance of 3. I've also indicated in the permanent UN mission, I've also indicated that there is an immigration officer attached there to handle the consulate services. Mr. Speaker, sir, I have also attached the details of the Los Angeles, again on the same principle, the authorized, the in-post, and where there's any variance. Clearly, on the LA, both the authorized and in-post tally, that is a total of 7 as it stands now. I have also tabulated the responsibilities of all these, Mr. Speaker, list. So it may be necessary for the Honorable perhaps seek any clarification on 1 or 2 at that. The second aspect is about explain how the staffing levels have impacted the operational efficiency of the said diplomatic missions and clarify whether there are any plans to deploy additional staff. Mr. Speaker, definitely staffing levels on operational efficiency by affecting workload distribution, response times, and the overall capacity to manage diplomatic tasks. Therefore, low staffing levels may occasion service delivery